Under a velvet sky, sprinkled with millions of stars, one person stands on a quiet balcony, gazing at the heavens. Their breath catches as they murmur the name of someone far away, someone they love but cannot reach. The wind stirs their hair, but the ache in their chest remains. It is as though the space between them stretches too wide, as if the distance itself tightens around their ribs. Far away, across oceans, continents, and time zones, another person awakens. They stir in their sleep, their heart racing, as though the very heartbeat of the other reverberates across the distance. Why does this happen? Why do we feel each other even when we are physically apart? In a laboratory, the lights flicker, casting long shadows. Two test subjects are seated miles apart, one in New York, the other in London. Both are connected to sensors that track their heart rates, their skin conductance, and their brainwave activity. The researcher observes the data, fascinated. At the very moment one partner begins to think about the other, their heart rate accelerates ever so slightly. Astonishingly, the partner, across the ocean, experiences the same. It's as if their bodies are tuned to each other, as if the distance between them no longer matters. How is it possible? Can love truly transcend the physical world? Or is this merely a trick of the mind, a poetic illusion we tell ourselves to cope with the ache of separation? This mystery is not new. In the late 1800s, telegraph operators and soldiers would often speak of a phenomenon that couldn't be explained. They would receive the news of a loved one's death, not from the telegram, but in their hearts before the official message arrived. There was an eerie certainty, a foretelling of an event, as if the connection between loved ones could transcend time and space. We dismissed these tales as coincidence or vivid imagination, but now, science is beginning to suggest that maybe there is something deeper at play, that love may leave traces in our very biology. Recent studies in neuroscience suggest something remarkable. Separated loved ones can share measurable physiological states. Their heartbeats can sync, their cortisol levels, the stress hormone, can rise and fall in tandem. Their brainwaves can mirror each other, despite the vast physical distance that separates them. The science is clear. Love is more than just an emotion. It is a biological force. But this discovery raises more questions. What does this mean for the nature of emotional connection? How does our biology shape the way we experience distance, absence, and longing? We live in a time when the tools to stay connected are more advanced than ever. We can call, text, video chat, and share moments in real time across continents. Yet, despite this constant communication, people still report feeling isolated, even lonely. In their long-distance relationships, it's as though technology, the very thing that should bring us closer, has only intensified the ache of separation. The paradox is this: while digital tools have collapsed physical distance, they have not solved the emotional distance. In fact, the constant contact has created a new kind of pain, the reminder that, despite the voices and faces we see on our screens, we cannot reach out and touch. We cannot hold the person in our arms. Their presence is there, but not truly. So, if love leaves traces in our biology, what does this mean for how we understand emotional intimacy? Can we truly feel the presence of a loved one, even when they are far away? And if love can travel through time and space in this way, what does it tell us about the nature of human connection? These are the questions that drive us forward. In this documentary, we will explore the science behind the biological force of love, from its chemical foundations to its manifestation in the nervous system, and how it shapes the way we connect, even across the greatest of distances. And in the process, we will begin to understand a deeper truth, that love, in all its forms, transcends the boundaries of space and time, and may be more profound than we ever imagined. What if love is not just a feeling? What if it's a chemical reaction, an intricate dance of molecules that shapes the very essence of who we are and how we bond with others? To understand why love and attachment are so powerful, we need to dive deep into the neurobiology of connection, to look inside the brain and see the molecules at play. At the heart of emotional bonding lies a set of molecules known as neurons. The most famous among them is oxytocin, often called the love hormone. It is released in moments of intimacy, when we hug, kiss, or make love, when we feel safe and supported by another. Oxytocin is not only responsible for creating feelings of trust and attachment, but it also plays a critical role in the formation of our deepest connections. Research shows that oxytocin doesn't just influence our behavior, it literally shapes the structure of the brain itself. The more oxytocin we produce, the stronger the neural pathways that reinforce attachment become. It's like a scaffolding that builds the emotional bridge between people, making them feel connected, seen, and cared for. But oxytocin is not alone in the neurochemical orchestra of love. Dopamine, often called the feel-good neurotransmitter, also plays a pivotal role. When we're in love, dopamine surges through the brain, triggering feelings of joy, excitement, and reward. It's the chemical response to the anticipation of connection, the "I can't wait to see you" feeling, or the rush we get from hearing our loved one's voice on the other end of the phone. Dopamine is the force that drives us to seek out our loved ones again and again, reinforcing our desire to be close to them. It's the motivation behind our behaviors, the desire to send that text, to make that call, to hear their voice. And then there's serotonin. Often associated with mood regulation, serotonin works to stabilize our emotional state, providing a sense of calm and contentment. When we feel connected to someone, serotonin helps keep us grounded, balancing the highs of dopamine with the steadiness of emotional stability. Together, these chemicals, oxytocin, dopamine, and serotonin, form the foundation of attachment. They don't just influence how we feel, they influence how we act, how we behave, and how we bond with others. And this biological process is deeply embedded in our evolution. From an evolutionary perspective, attachment is vital for survival. Early humans needed to form close bonds with others in order to cooperate, protect one another, and raise children. The stronger the bond, the more likely the group would thrive. This biological imperative, this drive to form lasting attachments, is deeply embedded in our genetic code. But attachment doesn't just occur in the mind, it affects the brain on a physiological level as well. One region that plays a critical role is the anterior cingulate cortex, which is linked to the experience of pain. This part of the brain lights up when we feel emotional distress, such as the pain of losing a loved one or being separated from them for too long. It's as if the brain perceives the absence of a loved one as a physical wound. Studies have shown that the brain reacts to emotional separation in much the same way it reacts to physical pain. The anterior cingulate cortex fires when we miss someone, making the absence feel almost unbearable. This connection between emotional and physical pain might explain why long-distance relationships can be so challenging. The brain doesn't simply register the emotional absence of a loved one, it processes it as a real, tangible threat to our well-being. Along with the emotional pain, our bodies also react by flooding the bloodstream with cortisol, the stress hormone. When we're apart from someone we love, cortisol levels rise, causing physical symptoms of stress, elevated heart rate, disrupted sleep, and weakened immune function. In a sense, the body experiences emotional separation as a physical threat. For long-distance lovers, military spouses, or anyone separated from loved ones, the consequences of prolonged emotional separation can be severe. Over time, chronic stress can take a toll on the body's overall health, leading to issues like sleep disturbances, anxiety, and even cardiovascular problems. So, if love and attachment are so deeply embedded in our biology, what happens when the people we love are not physically present? How does the brain respond to emotional separation? The answer, it seems, is that the brain and body adapt to this absence in ways that are both complex and fascinating. In long-distance relationships, the brain learns to adjust to the lack of physical touch by reinforcing the emotional bond through memory, conversation, and connection. Just as the body learns to adapt to stress, it also learns to adapt to emotional longing, but it's not always easy. What's even more intriguing is that modern technology, from texting to video calls, can partially bridge this gap. Studies show that when we engage in emotionally meaningful communication with someone we care about, the brain's reward systems are activated. While nothing can replace the physical presence of a loved one, these virtual connections can still trigger the release of oxytocin and dopamine, helping us maintain our bond across distances. In the end, the neurobiology of love and attachment shows us something beautiful, that even when we are apart, we are never truly alone. Our brains carry the people we love with us, encoded in every chemical, every molecule, every neural connection. Love, even across great distances, is more than a feeling. It is a living, breathing part of us. Scientist. Our research has shown that long-term separation can lead to a disruption in the neural pathways associated with attachment. These disruptions are not just emotional, they are deeply biological. But there's also evidence that with the right interventions, therapy, virtual reality experiences, mindfulness, we can re-establish those neural pathways and help couples bridge the emotional gap. Researcher. We used fMRI technology to monitor long-distance couples interacting over video calls. What we saw was a remarkable synchronization of their brain activity, particularly in the regions responsible for empathy and emotional processing. Even though they weren't physically together, their neural responses seemed to mirror one another, as if their brains were compensating for the absence of physical proximity. The brain is remarkably adaptive. Through the process of neuroplasticity, it can rewire itself, forming new connections and pathways to accommodate changes in our emotional and physical lives. In a long-distance relationship, the brain does just that. It creates new neural pathways to sustain the emotional connection, even in the absence of physical touch. Therapist. When clients are in long-distance relationships, we see that the lack of physical touch can significantly affect their mental health. It's not just the emotional longing that causes distress, it's the physiological changes that accompany emotional separation. The body and brain are essentially in a state of emergency mode when they are deprived of the neurochemical comfort that comes from physical closeness. Researcher. What we've found is that when long-distance couples are reunited, their brain scans show immediate changes in neural activity. It's as if their brains were waiting for the connection to be restored, and once it is, the emotional and physiological effects are almost instant. Counselor. It's important to understand that in long-distance relationships, both partners can experience the same physiological effects of emotional separation. But when that bond starts to weaken or become unbalanced, the effects can be detrimental to mental and physical health. Sometimes, the distance isn't just geographic, it becomes emotional and neurobiological. Therapist. The emotional toll of long-distance relationships often goes unnoticed, but it's incredibly real. The anxiety of waiting for a response. The pressure of maintaining an ongoing emotional connection. Despite the lack of physical presence, these stresses can accumulate over time. For many, this can manifest as symptoms of depression, stress, or even physical exhaustion. Therapist. Attachment theory helps us understand why distance can have such a profound effect on our emotional well-being. For those with anxious attachment styles, separation can trigger deep feelings of insecurity. Without physical closeness, they may feel emotionally abandoned, even if that's not the case. On the other hand, individuals with avoidant attachment styles might struggle with too much emotional closeness, making the distance easier to bear but often causing tension when their partner seeks more connection. The emotional toll of long love scene opens with a time-lapse of a city skyline at dusk, the transition from daylight to night, symbolizing the passage of time in a long-distance relationship. A person stares out the window, reflecting on the distance. Therapist. The emotional toll of long-distance relationships often goes unnoticed, but it's incredibly real. The anxiety of waiting for a response, the pressure of maintaining an ongoing emotional connection despite the lack of physical presence. These stresses can accumulate over time. For many, this can manifest as symptoms of depression, stress, or even physical exhaustion. Therapist attachment theory helps us understand why distance can have such a profound effect on our emotional well-being. For those with anxious attachment styles, separation can trigger deep feelings of insecurity. Without physical closeness, they may feel emotionally abandoned, even if that's not the case. On the other hand, individuals with avoidant attachment styles might struggle with too much emotional closeness, making the distance easier to bear but often causing tension when their partner seeks more connection. Scientist interview. When we ask people in long-distance relationships to look at pictures of their partners or recall a memory of a shared moment, we see remarkable patterns in the brain. The areas that light up are the same ones activated when someone is physically present: the ventral tegmental area, the nucleus accumbens, and the insular regions associated with reward, pleasure, and emotional processing. Scientist interview. We call this emotional synchronization. In our studies, we've found that when one person in a long-distance relationship experiences heightened emotional states, their partner can experience a corresponding shift in their physiological responses. Even though they're not physically near each other, their hearts race together, their stress hormones increase at the same time, and their nervous systems become attuned to each other's emotional state. Scientists interview: when we miss someone, we don't just think about them. We experience them in our bodies. The mirror neuron system allows us to almost simulate their presence, triggering emotional and physical responses as though they were right next to us. This process helps maintain a deep emotional connection, even when they're far away. Therapist: what often happens is that the longer the distance persists, the more our body becomes accustomed to the emotional states of stress and longing. The brain, while it continues to form these neural connections, also becomes sensitive to the negative effects of prolonged emotional strain. When people experience these heightened emotional states over long periods, it can lead to increased anxiety, difficulty sleeping, and even depression. Psychologist interview: when partners reunite after a period of long separation, we see a dramatic shift in their brain chemistry. Dopamine, the feel-good neurotransmitter, floods the system, while stress hormones like cortisol drop. This creates a feeling of euphoria, of relief. The body has been craving this reconnection, and finally, it gets what it needs. Scientist interview: the human need for connection is rooted in our evolutionary past. Early humans survived not only through physical strength or resourcefulness but also through social bonds. Attachment, the emotional bond we form with others, was essential for our survival. Those who could remain emotionally connected across distance, even in times of separation, were more likely to survive and pass on their genes. Anthropologist interview: early human artifacts, such as necklaces made from animal bones or stones, suggest that even our distant ancestors understood the importance of symbolic connection. These objects may have been exchanged during times of separation, a way to carry a piece of someone with them when they were apart. Historian interview: throughout history, humans have adapted to the challenges of separation in remarkable ways. During the Great Wars, soldiers would write letters home, expressing their longing for loved ones and their hopes for reunion. These written words became their emotional lifeline, keeping them connected across vast distances and years of separation. Psychologist interview: long-distance relationships bring out a unique set of psychological challenges. There's a constant push and pull between connection and attachment. The individual may experience intense feelings of longing, yearning for the physical presence of their partner, but they also need to adapt to a sense of emotional autonomy. It's an emotional balancing act, and it can take a toll on both mental health and well-being. Psychologist interview: one of the key factors is attachment style. Our early experiences with caregivers shape how we form relationships later. In life, people with secure attachment styles tend to handle separation with more resilience. However, those with anxious or avoidant attachment styles may struggle more with the emotional stress of distance. They might experience higher levels of anxiety or withdrawal when physically separated from a loved one. Psychologist interview: one of the paradoxes of modern digital relationships is that while technology allows us to stay connected, it also constantly reminds us of the absence. Every time we hear the ping of a text, we are reminded that the person is not physically present. Over time, this can create a sense of emotional dependence on the technology itself, rather than on the person we love. Therapist interview: mindfulness techniques, especially in the context of long-distance love, can be incredibly helpful in managing the emotional strain. These practices help individuals become more aware of their feelings, without letting those feelings dictate their actions. It's about learning to sit with the discomfort of longing, rather than trying to avoid it. The biological toll of long-distance love. Neurobiologist interview: when we experience emotional separation from someone we love, the brain's response is strikingly similar to the experience of physical pain. The amygdala, which processes fear and anxiety, activates. The anterior cortex, which deals with physical pain, also lights up. These areas essentially treat emotional separation like a wound, a deep, psychological cut. But it's not just the brain that responds. The body follows suit. Psychologists interview: people in long-distance relationships often experience elevated stress levels for extended periods of time. This chronic stress can lead to a range of physical issues: fatigue, weakened immune systems, digestive problems, and more. The body is constantly in a heightened state of alert, trying to cope with the emotional distress of missing someone. Over time, this can take a toll on mental health. leading to anxiety and depression. Lab technician interview. We've studied the physiological effects of thinking about a loved one, especially when separated by distance. The body's response is fascinating. When individuals focus on their partner, even if they're not physically present, the body begins to show signs of emotional arousal, increased heart rate, elevated cortisol levels, and other physiological markers of stress. It's as though the mind's longing is immediately translated into the body's response. Scientist interview. Interestingly, our latest research shows that emotional bonds, even long-distance ones, can have both positive and negative effects on the body's health. While prolonged separation can cause significant stress, the act of reconnecting with a loved one, even virtually, can lead to a marked reduction in stress levels and improvement in mood. This suggests that the body's attachment to others is an integral part of our health. It's not just emotional, it's biological.